Welcome back to another installment of Dungeons and Bagels, where we learn how to make the best out of our pen and paper experience. So, in the first episode, it was just a short introduction of who I am and what my project will be here on YouTube. Now, what I would like to do is dive right into the details of what to take into consideration when you get a group going for a campaign. Now, first and foremost, this might seem like a no-brainer. Wow, no-brainer. But I cannot stress this enough. When it comes to choosing your players, you will need players that actually get along correctly in real life. The reason is pretty simple. As you might guess, if your players do not get along in real life, they won't get along in the world that you're going to create. This might lead to frictions in the party, either metagame frictions or in-game frictions. In the second case, there's actually a way to find and enjoy this, but as a general rule of thumb, you will want players that will be able to have harmony in between them. It makes game running way easier. Second of all, the most important thing when you get a campaign going, and I could never say this enough, it's actually to set the expectations for the players accordingly. Here, I present to you a book. As you can see, the book has a cover and a back cover. In the back cover, what I find, well, the picture of the author, first of all, and also, I do find a very short description of what's in the book, what's to expect. So when I first opened this book, I sort of know what I'm diving into, you know? There's a title, there's a cover, there's some cliffhangers in the back, you know, things to grab my attention. So that way I'm like, hey, you know what? Something about email scams. That looks interesting. So I pick it up, I read it, and I knew what to expect. Now, if I grab the book and it's like, oh, email scams, that sounds interesting, and it turns out it's a recipe book? Yeah. Garbage. So, this means that when your players get into the game, they know a bit what to expect from you. Very simple example. You could oppose two types of gaming. The story-driven game, which is a slower paced, more dialogues, and the dungeon crawler, where you kick down the door, kill whatever's inside, get the loot, and move on to the next room, rinse, repeat. Now, those two game modes, they exist for a reason, because they're fun. Now, if you expect to break down doors, kill monsters, get loot, and you end up just talking, would you have made this character that only has physical stats, nothing social, everything aimed towards combat, simple, linear, maximized combat? No, because there's no reason to do so if you're only going to fight once or twice, maybe each game session, sometimes not fighting at all, because that's not the way the story went. You want your characters to know what to expect. If it's going to be intrigue-driven, they're going to take characters that can deal with that. If it's big monsters, they're going to make characters to deal with that as well. So you have to make sure to inform them of what you intend to put them through. What kind of challenges. Just as a small idea. And the same goes for the general lore of the area that they're going to be evolving in. General story of the world. How does it go? Are there orcs? Are there hobgoblins? What's happening? It's very important for them to know. For example, if a player is playing a ranger and he decides, you know what, my favorite enemy is gonna be a dragon. But turns out there's no dragons in your world. Why would he be good to fight dragons in the first place? You never told him there were no dragons. He made that choice and now he's stuck with it. He has a useless ability and he's going to look at it for the rest of the game, just seeing the bonus go up, being like, if it was a dragon, I'd have +2 damage right now. You don't want that to happen. You want him to know what he would be facing, so that way he can kill it faster. And then he'll be more satisfied. And on your side, that means you get to put more monsters, because you know they have what's necessary to deal with them. So it's very important to assist them in their character creation. That way you actually get to know their strengths and weaknesses individually and also as a group. Because in the best case scenario, you would like the group to be able to be balanced. So that way each character benefits to the group in a way. You might have the tanky frontliner, the utility frontliner, a midline spellcaster, and a backline spellcaster, for example. So that would be fighter, rogue, cleric, wizard, which is a staple group, pretty much able to face any challenge. That's just a quick example right there. If ever the shortcomings are too big, you can also, play around a bit, change your encounters. If they really all want to play frontliners, you can find a way to make it work. Maybe throw in an NPC of your own creation to give them a bit of range support. That could always work. Or maybe provide them with magical items that would allow you to put them against flying enemies, for example. So, the important thing about strengths and weaknesses is that as a game master, you should know how to make their strength shine and attack them on their weaknesses. Now, don't get me wrong, when I say attack them on their weaknesses, I don't mean throw the rogue in a den full of ghosts so he can't sneak attack anything and he'll just die. That's just wrong. D&D is not about killing the players, it's about knowing how far they can get. Having fun. Of course, death can happen. It does happen, actually. But there's always... Death should never be, a fatality in a way. I don't know if I'm expressing myself well here. It should not be your goal to kill the players, actually. Because if you want, you can. You have your dungeon screen. Whatever you roll can be a critical hit max damage. If you feel like killing someone, there's no one there to stop you. You are the game master. When I say you want to attack them on their weaknesses, you want to destabilize them. If they get used to, fighting orcs in the front, holding the line and stuff like that, and suddenly you put them against horse archers that are actually pretty quick and they just shoot as they run by. Then your characters cannot engage them directly. They either need to use ranged weapons or find cover to force the enemy to come to them. There you go, you attack them on one weakness. Did that ruin the whole experience? No. It made them see something new. It made them feel vulnerable. And that's important in D&D. You have to feel vulnerable at one point. So that's why you want to assist them in their character creation. So that way, you know how to make adequate challenges. So that way, when a player, for example, let's say the barbarian, he decided not to go for a gimmick, and he decided to be a herbalist. Because in his village, he was actually aiding the druid there in order to help patients get better. One way to exploit this skill, which is a very good choice if you ask me, profession and craft should always be encouraged. They allow for great storytelling and also role-playing for the players. Let's say the herbalist barbarian finds one of his old friends that is poisoned, and he would not have the time normally to bring him to a priest before the poison does his friend away. Now he could use his herbalist skill to find with the local plants something to cleanse the toxins, either completely or partially, so that way he would survive while they bring him over to the cleric that will take care of the rest of the poison. And then voila, quest XP, everyone's happy, and a high five to the player that chose herbalist. See, it's very important to know what your players are capable of doing, so that way you can remind them that they're capable of doing so. Players want to shine. They want their characters to be amazing. And you want them to feel that way about their characters. And that is why it's very important to a system in character creation, because that will allow you to make well-tailored challenges and keep the game interesting. Because that's the reason why they will come each new session, because the game is interesting. If the game or their characters get boring, well, you know what, suddenly they'll have friends to meet, stuff to do. But if you get it interesting, trust me, their friends will wait. Yep. They'll be around the table with you, rolling dices, drinking Mountain Dew until they're all out of energy or Mountain Dew. And trust me, we're never out of energy. Alright, so on this, I shall see you next time. If you have any suggestion for future topics, be sure to leave them down there in the comment section. Any feedback is also welcome. And in the meantime, remember, you were born a natural 20. See you next time.